victory in what's being seen as an act of defiance against Brussels. Our Europe correspondent Mark Stone reports.
Hi, how are you? Very nice to see you.
Yeah, very nice. Mark Stone. Thank you for talking to me.
No, it's my honour talking to you.
Are you busy?
The referendum was declared invalid, but Hungarian ministers are not focusing on that. Never mind the low turnout, the foreign minister told me.
3.3 million people.
Of those who did vote, look how many people sided with his government and against Brussels.
They have expressed their opinion in a very important issue. Actually, now this is the most important issue regarding the future of Hungary and regarding the future of Europe. 3.3 million people with their opinion showing the same direction. This is exceptional. It's more than the number of the people who voted in favor of our EU membership, and it's much more than the number of the people who showed up on the last European parliamentary election.
The valid votes, those not spoiled, and many were, amounted to just over 40%. And so well over half the voting population chose not to vote at all. In Brussels, the response to it all felt almost dismissive.
If the referendum had been legally valid, our comment would have been that we take note of it. Since it was declared legally void by the Hungarian Electoral Commission, we can now say that we also take note of it.
Viktor Orban is the longest-serving leader of any European country, except Germany's Angela Merkel. A right-wing nationalist, he's been in office since 2010. And for nearly that long, he's been a headache for the European Union. The paradox is that his country does better financially from EU funding than any other member state. The drive west out of Budapest is a reminder that cash from Brussels helps pay for plenty here. A €142 million road project was announced earlier this year. Felchert is a small town half an hour from the capital. And in the middle of it, they're laying the last few bricks of a new nostalgia train line for tourists, built with £1.7 million of EU funds. On the face of it, a good idea maybe. Rural Hungary regenerated and tourism encouraged. Except just 30 passengers used the line in its first month. The government said that 7,000 would use it daily. And it happens to be in Viktor Orban's home village. The EU is now investigating misuse of its funds. And so politically, morally, financially, he's out of step with traditional European values, and he's proud of that. Luxembourg recently called for Hungary to be kicked out of the European Union. That's hardly likely. They wouldn't want to lose another country after Brexit. But what this does is it demonstrates that there are frustrations and there are tensions as nationalist governments gain in a post-Brexit confidence. It wasn't the poke in the eye for Brussels that he'd hoped, but it is another small tremor for a fragile union. Mark Stone, Sky News in Budapest.
The top stories on Sky World News. The UN's envoy to Syria says he deeply regrets the suspension of talks between the US and Russia over Syria. Hurricane Matthew is skimming Jamaica but is headed for Haiti, bringing winds of up to 130 miles an hour. And as questions continue to be asked about Donald Trump's alleged non-payment of taxes, his charitable foundation has now been ordered to stop fundraising in the state of New York. OK, let's head back to Johannesburg now for African Business News.
A very good morning to you. I'm Alicia Seckham from Business Day TV, and it's time to check in on some of your African market performances now. Starting off, as usual, in Southern Africa, we had Botswana's domestic index and Zambia's LUSC ending their respective sessions flat. South Africa's all-share index, in the meantime, down 0.4%. In West Africa, Ghana's all-share continuing with its positive momentum, up close enough to 4%. The BRVM index in the Ivory Coast lost 1.4%, while Nigeria's all-share ended its session flat. In East Africa, Kenya's NSE gained 1.6%. The Semdex in Mauritius managed a marginal increase, while Uganda's composite traded just over 1% to the good. On the currency front, in Southern Africa, $1 gets you 10.41 Botswana Pula, 13.67 South African Rands, and 10 Zambian Kwacha. In West Africa, $1 is close to 4 Ghanaian Cedi, 594 Ivory Coast francs, and exactly 315 Nigerian naira. In East Africa, a dollar is just over 101 Kenyan shillings, 35 Mauritian rupees, and 3,393 Ugandan shillings. And that's your African markets news from Johannesburg. It's back to you now at the Sky News Centre in London.
Thanks a lot. This is Sky World News coming up.
The people here are praying. That thud was a live round. The men are locked up inside, often 70 to a room.
This is the scene at the Hungary-Serbia border right now.
A mother pleads with the police not to take her to the camp.
They've absolutely overrun the area that they were being corralled into.
All of them want to go for their kids. Take our kids and I will come back to Syria.
International Emmy Award winner, Sky News.
In potentially the shortest retirement in boxing history, Tyson Fury has hung up his gloves and then retracted his original statement in a matter of hours. This morning, the world heavyweight champion posted a tweet saying, "I'm the greatest and also retired." This afternoon, Fury said, "You think you'll get rid of the Gypsy King that easy? I'm here to stay." His friend Ricky Hatton is worried about the fighter.
It seems like he's going through a load of problems, and it's a shame the way his career has panned out after climbing Mount Everest. He said it's such a shame, but I hope as a friend and as a fellow British boxing fan, I hope he's safe. That's all I'm bothered about.
England's new temporary manager Gareth Southgate has already had to rejig his squad. Raheem Sterling's been ruled out of the World Cup qualifiers against Malta and Slovenia. Suffered an injury against Tottenham on Sunday. Crystal Palace's Andros Townsend has been called up to replace him. Two managers have been sacked. Swansea's Francesco Guidolin has gone. He helped them to safety last season, but the club haven't won in the league since the opening game of the season. Former USA coach Bob Bradley will succeed Guidolin. Bradley has left French club Le Havre to take up the role, so do the players think they can start pushing up the league?
We've got the same squad we sort of had towards the end last year with a few different additions, and we did have a few good results last year. We had a good bit of form, and it's just we've had a tough start like a few teams have in this league, and I'm sure if everyone can play like we know we can with a good tempo and a good a good style, then I'm sure we can start pushing back up the league.
In the Championship, Roberto Di Matteo has been sacked by Aston Villa. The club are currently 19th and have won just one league game all season. Steve Clarke will take over as caretaker manager.
It'll be dry and settled with sunny spells across Scandinavia, but brisk winds will affect Baltic Sea coast. And it's a very windy and cloudy picture across Eastern Europe, from Finland through the Baltic states down to Slovenia. There will also be outbreaks of rain, mainly from Belarus and Ukraine towards Austria. To the southeast of this, it will be sunnier, but there will be some heavy showers for Bulgaria, Italy and the Balkan Peninsula. Further west across Europe, it's largely warm and dry with sunny spells, although it will be cloudier and breezier for Portugal, northwest France, the UK and Ireland. Largely dry with plenty of sunshine across the bulk of the Middle East and North Africa, but a few showers are likely in central Iran, around the Gulf of Oman, northern Algeria and Mauritania. Further south, thunderstorms will break out widely through Central Africa, but they will be well scattered over Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya and Tanzania, with many places dry and sunny. Western Angola will be mainly dry too. Southern Africa and Mauritius will be mostly fine as well, but showers will affect parts of Mozambique, Madagascar and the Seychelles. This is Sky World News coming up.
Keep breathing. Come on. Come on.
top stories on Sky World News. The UN's envoy to Syria says he deeply regrets the suspension of talks between the US and Russia over Syria. Hurricane Matthew is skimming Jamaica but is headed for Haiti, bringing winds of up to 130 miles an hour. And as questions continue to be asked about Donald Trump's alleged non-payment of taxes, his charitable foundation has now been ordered to stop fundraising in the state of New York. Now, Colombia's president and the leader of the rebel FARC group have both said they still want peace. That's despite the public vote against the peace deal aimed at ending the country's 52-year conflict. Further talks between government negotiators and rebel leaders in Havana may reveal a way forward. Well, I'm joined now by the journalist James Bargent, who's in Medellin. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, this must be a huge blow to a peace deal that would have ended a war that many thought would never come to an end.
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge blow and a largely unexpected one. It was leaked out in the days before the vote that the president and the FARC basically had no plan B. So exactly where we're going to go from now and how this peace process can be salvaged and then brought to this war remains completely unclear.
So then the people who voted against this peace deal, what were their main issues?
Well, I think the two issues that surfaced more than any others were transitional justice and political participation. So under the terms of the agreement, there would be a widespread amnesty for most FARC fighters, and those guilty of crimes against humanity would have undergone a special justice regime where if they confessed all their crimes, then they would have had restricted liberties and engaged in restorative justice programs. And for many people, this simply wasn't enough. They felt the FARC were getting off lightly, and they wanted to see the FARC leaders do prison time. And then on the political participation agreement, that would have guaranteed the FARC several seats in Congress and in Senate during the next two electoral periods. And again, people found that very difficult to accept. They feel the FARC have brought their way to the table using arms. However, I think it's also